Hi, everyone. If you're just joining us, thanks for coming to the CONO Cares Helping Neighbors webinar. We're just going to give our participants a minute or two to join, and we'll be starting here in just one or 2 minutes. During this time, if you want to go grab a drink, grab a coffee, tea, dinner, whatever the case may be, take this minute or two, and we'll get started here shortly. All right. Well, hopefully we're seeing our participants join us in the virtual world here. All right, we'll get started. Thanks again, everyone. My name is Stephanie Search. I'm the director of the Council of Neighbors and Organizations, CONO. Thanks for joining us on our first webinar in our webinar series for CONO Cares, a holiday campaign that we're doing this year to highlight nonprofits and groups that are taking an active role in the benefit of our community. Tonight we have 3 excellent panelists, so I hope that you find this enjoyable. On the front, on the title page here is our CONO information, our website there with our link to the CONO Cares campaign and other information about that, our phone number, and that's our email information at cscono.org. For those of you who are unfamiliar with CONO, and just a refresher for those of you who are, CONO is the Council of Neighbors and Organizations. Our mission is to empower neighbors and neighborhoods to take action in their communities through education and connection. We do several programs throughout the year. We have cleanup days for neighborhoods. We are the stewards of the city's block party program. We conduct leadership trainings. And then a big part of what we do is just general HOA and neighborhood answer service. And essentially that is getting involved in, or responding to neighborhood issues or inquiries. Anybody essentially who lives, in our city or county or the Pikes Peak region can email us, can ask us for questions, for help with questions on governance or any other issue that's occurring in their neighborhood. And we try to provide resources and referral for that. We do civic education in various forms. We have elected officials sometimes speak, city staff, those types of things. And we also facilitate public meetings on various issues throughout the community. Part of our civic education and how it coincides with CONO Cares is we also want to provide education to the community during this time of, especially of COVID, of some agencies and organizations in our community that are providing resources. So we also partner, on the daily with city staff and county staff, elected officials, and other partner nonprofits in our community as well. We coordinate with neighbors on projects, issues, or ideas they have for their neighborhood or their HOA. Our CONO Cares campaign, as I mentioned, is kind of a culmination of a lot of things that we do at CONO, but it's particularly important during this time that we're still in the throes of the pandemic. But we wanted to have, we're going to provide some education to, so people have the resources that they need to access services they might need in the community, and also to highlight nonprofits who are doing good work in our community and offering our audience, and our residents ways that they can support these nonprofits. As most of you know, we live in a very giving community. We have many nonprofit groups who are doing good things for, for our city and our county and our community. So it was really hard, to pick just 3 tonight and 3 tomorrow. So I want to give accolades and applaud all the nonprofit groups that are doing good work in our community, especially during the challenges faced by COVID. Tonight, we're going to have a couple leaders from these 3 featured nonprofit groups. The leaders will share about info about the good work they do each day, the challenges faced by COVID, and how residents can support them this holiday season and beyond. And I'm really excited to have our 3 panelists here. I'm very enthusiastic about Christy Milligan from Westside Cares, Derry Rhodes from Solid Rock Community Development Corporation and the Solid Rock Community Pantry, and Kathy Plush from Springs Recovery Connection. I'm going to leave this screen up just for a minute or 2 while we start talking, just so people kind of have can put a face to the name, and also have the website there available if they want to hop on and see a little bit more about the good work that you do in addition to what you're going to tell us tonight. Last but not least, I wanted to introduce my coworker, who I'm very proud of, has been doing such great work in the community. His name is Keyshawn Cooks, and he's going to be my co-pilot tonight. He's CONO's community coordinator. So CONO is a small but mighty staff of just a couple of staff and a couple of hardy volunteers, and I'm happy to work and very excited to work alongside Keyshawn every day. So Keyshawn, if you want to say any words, I'll let you have it.
Hello, everyone. Just want to thank you all for coming out tonight and supporting us. It really means a lot. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Keyshawn. And thanks again, everybody, for being here. Keyshawn, as I mentioned, is going to be my co-pilot. So just some guidelines for tonight. Obviously, we're in the webinar format. If you wanted to ask a question, and we certainly welcome that, we're hoping to have some dialogue with the audience. If you want to ask a question, please just put it in the chat or the Q&A. Keyshawn's going to be monitoring that, so he'll probably periodically jump in and try to cover all those questions. So with that, we will go to our panelists. All right. All right, everybody. Awesome. This is like a little, it's like a sharing circle. Yeah, so I'm really happy. I'm happy you guys were able to join us here tonight. This is the first real basic question, and we'll kind of just so we keep it in order and make sure everybody gets equal time to speak. We'll start off with you, Christy. Jerry will go to you second, then Kathy will go to you third, sort of in the rotation, just to make sure everybody gets to cover what they need to. So I guess just starting off with real basic questions is, tell us, Christy, a little bit about your role at Westside Cares and your background, and maybe just a simple kind of summary of what your organization does.
So, hi, I'm Christy Milligan. It's an honor to be here with you and to be supportive and integrative with the work that CONO does. Thank you for the opportunity. I am a Colorado Springs native. I grew up here. I currently act as the CEO and singular full-time employee at Westside Cares. That means that I am also our chief financial officer, our chief marketing officer, our chief everything. I worked at the pantry this afternoon. I am delighted to be here with you tonight. I manage our social media, all of it. So really, I am led by the community, and Westside Cares is honored to provide care and compassion to neighbors in need on the west side of El Paso County. We serve 10,000 unique individuals each year with home, health, and hope-affirming programs. And we're thrilled to be here.
Awesome. I was thinking CEO, Chief Everything Officer. Maybe that should be like all of our titles, regardless of our actual title, right? Yeah, you wear
other duties as assigned.
Yeah, exactly. You wear a lot of different hats, working as, working in nonprofits in general, I think. So, but especially as the director. So thanks so much for being here, Christy. And Jerry, same thing. We'll go to you. A little background, your background, a little background about your organization.
Hi, I'm Jerry. Well, my name is Jetta Snaka, but everybody calls me Jerry. My last name is Rose. I am a Southeast graduate of Harrison District 2. I'm so proud of that. Say it every chance I get. And I actually also graduated from CONO's community advocate program. So I'm also an artist. So I'm an artist and community advocate. And I am the sole employee of Solid Rock's community food pantry. So when Christy was saying that she does everything, I felt that so deep within my soul. So it's a pleasure to serve the community. It's really, no matter how much I move and how much I learn and grow, I'm always drawn to the Southeast. So it's just a part of my life that I'm grateful to be able to serve in. A little bit about Solid Rock, though. Solid Rock Community Development Corporation aims to bring an end to decades of concentrated poverty on the southeast side of Colorado Springs through basically strategic and cooperative community transformation investments. So building businesses, providing healthy communities for people, and affordable housing are the main three things that Solid Rock is currently working on to build up the Southeast.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for sharing, Jerry. And I just applaud you for sharing, how proud you are of, we're being a Harrison graduate and also being a graduate of CONO's community advocate training. There's a lot of you out there, and we are so proud of all of you and what you've done in the community. And it's really great to hear also, just what Solid Rock is doing so many great things in the community, and I'm just happy to have you here.
Yeah, it's truly pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. Kathy, tell us the same thing, a little bit about yourself, your background, your role at Springs Recovery Connection, and a little bit about the organization.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for inviting us to participate tonight. We're really excited to introduce the work that we do to the wider neighborhoods. Springs Recovery Connection is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we are a recovery community organization. So I'm a person in long-term recovery from substance use disorder, and everyone that you meet at Springs Recovery Connection will be a person who has recovered from addiction. And so we are community-based citizens in long-term recovery, and we offer support, education, and hope to people who are struggling with substance use disorder, and especially families who are have a loved one who's struggling. We work with families, we work with individuals, and we work also to educate our community, because we feel Springs Recovery was, I'm the founder, and so we were founded about 7 years ago, and we are totally grassroots and just people who want to help the next person. We know that substance use disorder is, we believe, our nation's #1 public health issue. Certainly prior to the pandemic, we had an epidemic of overdose deaths. And so we are people who, we know the best way to help someone is through a peer model. And so that's what we are, is a peer recovery support center. So that's what we do.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kathy. Thank you for sharing. Thanks again for being here. And just to attest to, I think what you do is so important. And, part of CONO's mission is connection. And I really see that embodied also in what you do at Springs Recovery Connection, and how strong that just the peer partnership that you have, that your clients have, and your patrons have with each other, I think is so important. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on tonight, so we could hear a little bit more about that.
Oh, thank you very much. We're really happy to be here.
So along these same lines too, not to be too redundant, but just a little bit, if each of you could tell me the history of your organization, sort of how it came about, how old it is, how it came about, and how that just kind of took place to meet the need in the community. We'll go back to Christy with Westside Cares.
Thank you. So Westside Cares was founded in 1984 when the county poor farm was disbanded. A bunch of faith congregations came together and said, we can't allow this to happen in our community. We need to form an organization that supports people experiencing poverty. And out of that, Westside Cares was born. Today, we have 22 member faith communities. We are an interfaith organization who remain committed to the work of serving people and walking alongside people experiencing poverty. We've been doing our work for obviously 35 years, and every year we continue to be grateful for the community. As of today, we are also broader than just those member faith communities. Kathy knows that we used to operate out of what is now the Sanctuary Church, what used to be Bethany Baptist, and Springs Recovery Connection has programming over there, and it continues to be a linchpin for our community and a connection point.
Great. And Christy, could you just elaborate a little bit on that structure with the faith communities and how they fuel sort of like your mission and operationally help that?
Absolutely. Westside Cares, I think, started as primarily an interfaith organization when member faith communities would contribute meaningfully in a commensurate way with their commitment and their ability to do so to fuel our programmatic impacts. Over the years, Westside Cares has grown. I would say about 25% of our funding comes from our member faith communities. They approve our budget every year, but they also designate an executive board that handles the governance function of Westside Cares. More than I would say about 50% of our funding currently comes from individuals, and 25% comes from private foundations. At the moment and into the future, Westside Cares receives $0 from government funding of any kind.
Thanks, Christy. Thanks for elaborating on that. And I just, if you guys see me looking down, I'm just writing a couple of notes because there's a few questions I want to come back to with each of you. And funding is one of them, because one of the reasons we're having the CONO Cares campaign is also not just to highlight the work of the organizations, but also offer people ways that they can donate. And really give you guys a forum to tell the community like what you need and what would help in terms of contributions to keep your organizations able to operate and able to carry out the work that you do. So thanks, Christy. So Jerry, same thing. If you could give us just a little bit of a history of Solid Rock, like how it came about, and that background.
Yeah, of course. So Solid Rock is often confused with the church because Solid Rock Christian Center, which is on Arlington, because that's really where it derived from. Pastor Ben Anderson is really the fuel and the force behind the Solid Rock Community Development Corporation. He's also the executive director. He's worked in in the Southeast community for over 15 years, doing various different things. A lot of our partnerships, funding, et cetera, come from other like grants, other community-based organizations, just really partnering with local, also faith-based organizations do fuel us in donations as well. It's a lot of different variances that really fuels specifically the community food pantry. I know that we received a grant from El Paso County Health and Penrose Hospital to start this community food pantry. And then from there, it's just miscellaneous different things with all of the Solid Rock Community Development Corporation projects that fuel it.
Awesome, Jerry. And I'm glad you sort of segued into this nicely. You're reading my mind. I was gonna ask you a little bit about, obviously Solid Rock has been there for a bit and have done some other things, but the community pantry that we're specifically highlighting because of, obviously your role as being the director of that, that is my understanding that that's pretty recent.
Absolutely.
And if you want to tell us a little bit about when that started and how that came about.
Yeah, so it started in August when the previous project manager, Gina Peterson Martinez, reached out to me because she already knew me from different community things. I volunteered at food pantries for forever here. When I was younger, I used to go to food pantries, so I've always been in like the business of helping others. And I also know that in the Southeast particularly, we have like a 16-year life difference and our other neighboring communities. And it's always been important to me that we have healthy alternatives. So when she came to me just saying like, hey, we have a youth coordinator program and a food pantry that are going to open up this summer. Because again, this is like months ago in like March or April, I believe. I was like, she wanted me to do the youth program because I work with children a lot with art. But I was like, no, I think I'd really like to do the food pantry. I have a lot of experience. And she was just like, yeah, for sure. So we got this location in the Mission Trace Center in August. And then it was really a lot of trial and error. If anyone remembers this summer when like Mitchell was doing the huge distributions in Sierra, the first month we really just went and shadowed, did a lot of work with Cause I Love You and Pikes Peak United Way, because they do a lot of they gather volunteers and have just the organization and the structure for like the large distributions and other things that we were aiming to do. So we did a lot of that, and then we had our first drive-through August 21st, and like it's been crazy ever since. It's really a organic growth, I would say. It's a lot of like me sharing on my Facebook and my Instagram, telling people like, yo, we got some good food. We have fresh food. We have, because people go to a lot of pantries, and I know the first 2 months that they came here, they were like, whoa, we have bread and lettuce and spinach and potatoes and green peppers. And I'm like, yeah, we get some cool stuff here, they're used to just getting like canned goods and dry foods, etc., which we do provide as well. But I just always pride myself in trying to give healthier, not the healthiest all the time, but healthier food options as much as we can. because that's another way to help the community, not just giving them food, but giving them nutritious food that they may not have access to purchasing, because food is expensive. So
Yes.
I hope I answered the question, because I did go on a rant there. So my apologies.
Oh, no, that's great. That's great. And you did answer the question. So it sounds like you guys started back in August. That was your first food distribution. And what I really love, and just like hearing you talk, is how you partnered with other organizations, and they were sort of like almost mentoring you, building your own model for doing that. So we see that so much, in our nonprofit work, where, neighborhood groups or, other organizations will help a newer organization or help a newer group and offer almost like sort of a mentoring model for them. So that's awesome. And I love the fact that your emphasis is on, yes, we're providing food, but we want to provide healthy food and healthy options that people might not be able to have access to. So that's great.
Oh, I also have to say a big shout out to Colorado Springs Food Rescue, because they provide a lot of our healthy options and are one of the organizations that really helped us get started. So shout out to y'all.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Jerry. And me as the CONO director, want to give a shout out to Keyshawn too right now, because I know he has been helping out and has been instrumental in trying to CONO, part of our role and part of really our mission and our even strategic plan going forward is to be better resources and referrals for people, even just facilitating things, information about things that are happening in the community. So I hope we were able to do that. I know Keyshawn's been working hard on just getting the word out about the pantry and really lots of other things that are going on in the Southeast too. So
yeah, if I can piggyback off that just for a second, Keyshawn also comes here and volunteers and works his butt off every single chance he gets, because I ask him very often, because he's just great. So I do appreciate you, Keyshawn. You always show up. You always keep me in the loop, and you're always thinking of us. So you're my dog. You already know. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Jerry.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and moving on to Kathy at Springs Recovery Connection. Back to you guys. Just a little bit about how Springs Recovery Connection, came to be, and how long it's been in operation, and just kind of like how your programs have evolved.
Yeah, so we, like I said, we were founded about 7 years ago when a group of community-based citizens like myself got together. And what I understood personally, from personal experience as being a woman in long-term recovery, I thought that I would know what to do if a loved one of my family members had an addiction. I thought, I'll know what to do. But that happened and I didn't know what to do. And I was really shocked at the lack of support in our community. I was shocked at the lack of understanding of the disease of addiction. And I was really shocked at the lack of support for families who are going through this, and the stigma that's still alive and well. And through that experience, I became involved with the national organization, which is called Faces and Voices of Recovery. And it's about putting a face and a voice to recovery, because as long as we keep recovery in the shadows, we keep recovery in the church basements, people don't know that we really do get well and we become active members of our community and we give back. And so part of this movement is these recovery community organizations that are popping up all across the country. And so we are one of those, and there's over 150 of us across the country. And our mission is to change the way our communities deal with and treat addicts and alcoholics. And we know that we have a solution, but we also know we have to put a face to it. We have to let people know that we do get well. And so a bunch of us got together and we just started the work, and it's been a grind. And we're finally, getting to the point where we're getting some grants, we're getting support, and we've grown exponentially in the last couple of years. It's just been crazy. We're working in the hospital, we're working in the El Paso County Jail and in the court systems, and we just are exploding. And so we're just really grateful for how our community has responded to the work we're doing. And we really are meeting a huge need, and especially now.
That's awesome. You know, Kathy, thanks so much. And I just want to applaud you too for sharing, part of your own story and how that came to be in developing the organization that you now represent. I think that's so powerful, and I just affirm too, and it's so needed. I do feel that sometimes the greatest thing to disable some of that stigma behind addiction is really giving people a clear picture of who we're talking about, and humanizing that these are our friends, these are our neighbors, these are our family members, and really humanizing that and giving people hope and inspiration that they see faces of, I think you said the faces and voices kind of movement, that they see faces of people who are living healthy, successful lives in recovery. And then also recognizing that those faces are, once again, our family member, our friends, our neighbors. You could go up and down one block and meet 10 people who either had an experience in addiction themselves, or a close family member, or a friend. So it almost kind of just once again, that kind of more humanizes things for people. So I did want to just delve into your program just really quick. If you could talk a little bit about, because I know a little bit about it, but the peer kind of component of your program, because I feel like that's really where the connection piece lies.
Mhm. Yeah, and so we say the opposite of addiction is connection. We really feel like connecting with people who are suffering with this is how we heal. And we do that through a one-on-one. So all of our peer coach. So what we are is a peer recovery coach organization. Really, we have peers who are well trained. We have a training program that's a 32-hour training for the basic recovery coach training. And what we do is we work on home, health, community, and purpose, because we feel like those are the 4 areas that if we can help people with those 4 areas, having a safe, sober place to live, and having a community of recovery surrounded by people who are sober as well, and have good health care, and then find a purpose for their life. Those are really the footstool for helping people find recovery. So that's really the basis of the work we do. And then we work in Memorial Hospital Emergency Department, so we meet people where they're at, and then help them move forward through motivational interviewing and helping people move through the stages of change. We're not asking you to be sober the first time. We're hoping that we can move into that by the example of our own lives and the tools that we use to help you move into sobriety. And we support all roads to recovery. So people come to us with all kinds of ideas about how they want to get sober, and we help them move through that. We help them bring that to life. And so and then families, we have a family program where we work with families who are, a lot of times families are in crisis long before the loved one is. And so we have a family program that we help families move through the stages of change themselves, and they can learn to change their language, change their behavior, and change the way they're thinking to help the loved one often move into recovery. And, we had a family contact us recently whose son had just recently been incarcerated, and she was so relieved, and she asked if we could connect with him and work with him, and we did that immediately. And now he's a participant with us behind the walls. And so we call that our Friends Behind the Walls program, and it's really great. So when he does get out, he will have a recovery coach. He'll have a sober house to go to. He'll have employment possibly. And so we just work on those areas of trying to help people. That's never been done before. We've never helped people where they're at. Usually we're just like, darn, why don't you go get some help? But we've never actually helped people, taken their hand and walked them through the door. And that's what we do, and it's been incredibly successful.
That's awesome, Kathy. Thanks so much for sharing. And that kind of segues into something I wanted to circle back with each of you, and starting again with Christy. I know each one of you serves a community need, and a lot of times each one of you guys does it in a different way, but a lot of times these are essential needs. I know even Jerry and Kathy, throughout what you were talking about, you're talking about basic needs, trying to help people find food, housing, employment, that type of stuff, and recognizing that's so critical. Regardless of the services like your agency provides, there's some partnership and overlap with other groups. And there's always, it seems like those of us who work in nonprofits, sometimes it's like, gosh, there's this overwhelming need sometimes. There's so many nonprofits, yet there's so much need. So Christy, circling back to you, tell us a little bit about the number of people that you serve, what exactly, you're seeing the most people come in for, either per service or per population, and just give us an idea, sort of about that. And even I would say during this time of COVID, how that has changed maybe since regular, pre-COVID, I say regular times, just, never a regular time, but pre-COVID, or something like that.
Yeah, it's a great question. And well, let me start here. Westside Cares serves people experiencing poverty, irrespective of housing status. I will tell you that roughly 85% of the people that we serve are tenuously housed. Mm-hmm. Since the onset of the pandemic, the margins for poverty, for falling off that cliff, just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I am really pleased and proud that the programs that we have offered since day one of the pandemic, we have had the only continuously operating weekly pantry on the west side of Colorado Springs. We offer mail service to people in transition since day one of the pandemic, mm-hmm. rental assistance, utilities assistance since day one, referral services since day one, PPE distribution since day one. We have integrated back into our portfolio a lot in response to the closure of ESM and Reach Pikes Peak, an increase in laundry vouchers, clothing support, basic hygiene items. We have also amplified our pantry operations. But I will say that, so I was at our pantry today. We served 80 units, so 80 families, a total of 244 people. Of those 80 units today, 19 of them were brand new to a pantry. In 2019, we served, we provided $4,000 to people for rental assistance. In November of 2020, we served $20,000 worth of rental assistance to the community. So we are seeing an increase in need. We remain committed to robust portfolio of service provision. We have an on-site medical, we do flu shots. It is my hope and desire that we will be able to vaccinate vulnerable populations. I will also say that as it relates to our pantries, fully 1/3 of the people who receive food, now these aren't always the people who present for food, are children. Mm-hmm. So families, and we, the 85% housed bears out across all of our program areas, but people are increasingly tenuous in their housing situation, and the eviction prevention funding from the federal government is a lot, but I don't know if it will be enough to stem the tide of evictions that I think are coming just down the pike. So that's the nature. I would say that we, like Kathy, believe that relationship is the conduit of transformation. We deal with people with substance use disorder, and we start from the very basics of telling them that they are valued and loved. Mm-hmm. And we try to provide community. We also do cleanups. What's really cool about our cleanups is that the program was initiated by people experiencing homelessness who wanted to create better parks and waterways. Mm-hmm. I am basically the administrator for that program, but it is entirely neighbor-led and directed. And once we get out there in our grubbies cleaning up the stream, you can't tell who sleeps outside and who sleeps inside. And so it's very important for us to equalize across demographics. And so that's what all of our programs strive to do.
Awesome, Christy. You described that so eloquently too. I feel like I want to add something, but you did it so well that I admire you for sharing that too. And I'll just reiterate what I said earlier to Kathy and Jerry. I think one of the most powerful things is really dispelling a lot of times misconceptions we have about, people have about the populations that all of you serve. There's a lot of stigma around poverty. There's a lot of, there's a lot of things to dismantle there. So I love the whole that meeting people and equalizing, that for them, and also having them be part of the community, integrate into the community. So I appreciate all that you shared, Christy. And Jerry, I guess we can move on to you. That same question, especially during COVID times. Talk a little bit about the demographic, the number of people that you serve. I know the food pantry's only been in existence for a little bit, but just maybe comment on some challenges in your community or some needs that you're now addressing during COVID that maybe you weren't addressing before as much.
Yeah, we're in a unique situation here at the community food pantry because we started in the midst of the pandemic. So I really don't know anything else but pandemia. Is that a word? I just made it up. So I don't know, I don't know anything else but this state of being in a pandemic. It's just interesting because just me being here this short amount of time, I'm usually the one that sees people's, face to face and is talking to our client base, I guess is the proper word, or our community, our friends at this point, because I know most of them by name. And it's just interesting because a lot of them do come here, and I'm an emotional being, like crying, like, oh my God, we have food. And I'm just so,
Yeah.
I'm always crying every day. It's
I mean,
something.
I'm tearing up just listening to you guys talk. Like I'm trying to
Yeah.
those. I'm like, wait, hold on.
So it's just so interesting. We're off to a slow start. Again, it's all like organic marketing at this point. I mean, we've sponsored a few Facebook posts, but we haven't had any crazy notoriety. We're still not on like Care and Share's food pantry list or anything like that. But last month, I am pretty proud. We served 1,926 people.
Oh wow.
In November.
That's a very precise number.
Yeah. Because I just did the math while she was talking, because I was like, wow, I
That's what you guys are doing there.
any math. Yeah. I had to pull it up because I was like, I should know this. But I don't really look at the numbers because it's more of like, I'm just handling it a day at a time. This is what we have, what the need is, and trying to find resources, especially in my experience here. We serve like a huge Latin community. The majority of the people that come to the pantry only speak Spanish. Some of them can or cannot read. So it's just very interesting, the demographic we serve and how comfortable they become once you speak their language. So my parents are from Panama, so I speak Spanish because that's the language in Panama. So it's just very interesting. They're just so immediately, you can see just like a sigh of relief when I speak to them in Spanish, because I can hear them like trying to find the words to communicate in English. And I'm like, no, kind of like someone said earlier, meet them where they are. I'm just so proud that I'm able to do that, and that I am blessed enough to be bilingual, because it's really, I can tell how hard it is, especially even for my parents, being judged, and in the world we live in today, just not being able to have a resource because you simply can't communicate with the language, not being able to get food or having to answer questions or show certain documentation, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just really proud that like we're able to serve even just under 2,000 people in a month is like huge. Because again, I'm learning as I'm going. There's no handbook. I wasn't given a specific training. Like we're just taking it day by day. And I just know that there are people out there that are hungry, and we have resources to food. So I got to find them. That's just my mission. And I think of that every day. And every time we have a distribution, I'm like, who can I call that may have somebody that's hungry or who's been affected by COVID specifically? We had some families that were coming here that happened to contract COVID within their family. So we're like quarantining, and I would go drop the boxes off at their house, because I'm like, y'all have to eat. If you can't leave your house and you're all in quarantine, how are you getting meals? Just thinking something as simple as that it's like we take life for granted every day, and I'm just trying not to. We also give out now masks and hand sanitizers with our meals, with our boxes or bags that we give out every week. So it's just really considering like, this is our reality for now, and we have to find ways to help each other and build that community and help our neighbors throughout the issue that we're having.
Yeah, no, I think you described it really succinctly, and a lot of you have talked about just meeting people where they are and responding to need when it occurs, and you guys have all done that. Thanks, Jerry.
Of course.
And Kathy, we'll move on to you. Just the same question. just a little bit of background about the number of people that you serve. And I do want to throw in here both of Christy and Jerry. I don't want to let this just fall by the wayside. The population that you serve, thousands of people essentially, like, applaud yourself for that. That has a huge effect. And Kathy, the same thing for your group, I'm sure. But tell us a little bit about, Kathy, how many People Springs Recovery Connection serves, and also how has the need changed during COVID? I ask that particularly because, certain populations obviously struggle more, I think, than others during this time. And I read a quote the other day. It said, "We're in the same storm, but we don't all have the same boat." And I think like that was really telling. I wish I could say who said it, but I read it in a newspaper article and I really liked it. So, Kathy, if you could speak to that.
Sure. I think, it's drastically affected our population. Of course, the isolation, like I said before, connection is the key, and isolation is really detriment to trying to get well, because that's how we peers, we work together, we work face to face, we have support group meetings we attend, and we help each other get well together, so isolating has been really difficult, but it's also shown us some brand new ways of connecting that have been really quite exciting. Actually, we have people who are showing up to our support groups who would never have showed up face to face, and we have family members who are showing up to our family program who never would have shown up face to face. So it's really opened up the doors drastically, and I say our numbers have increased by over a third. We've really had a huge increase in need, and last year we served around 4,000 people. And then the most striking is probably our emergency department program, where we served 900 individuals this past year. And the good news is we were able to engage with 50% of those, because we have that window of opportunity when the peers go and meet them in the hospital bed. It's a window of opportunity where they're hurting and they might listen, and so it gives us a great opportunity to make that connection and to help them move into a place where maybe they will be willing. And what we do from there is we put them on telephone recovery support, which is we call them every day for 3 days. And just remind them, this is where you were, and this is what's happening. How can we help you? How can we help you move forward? And we have had an amazing success rate by doing that. So about 50% of those have stayed engaged with us, are still engaged with us. And then we've been able to move about 60% of those into treatment of some sort, whether that's with Aspen Point or Peakview or some other treatment center, or just involved with us, as having ongoing peer recovery support coaching. And so the pandemic has, deeply affected us, but we have responded quickly. And kind of like Christy was saying, it's like you just jump in there and you get to work and you do what you got to do. And so we've been able to stay connected with people, even though we're not in the emergency room right now. Obviously, we have an iPad, and so the mental health workers, are able to connect us with individuals who are needing support that way. And of course, it's not nearly as effective, but it's still working. We're still doing it. And so I think we've really turned a corner in some of our virtual connections that have worked really well.
Do you have any, just out of curiosity, do you have any other ways, like you modified some of your programs? I know before we launched the webinar here, we were just talking that, sometimes the virtual platforms have been even sometimes more beneficial, because it just provides people easier access than coming in person or trying to find transportation to an actual facility. Have you found that it's reduced some of those types of barriers? And do you anticipate maybe continuing things on a virtual platform or offering a virtual option for those people who can't make it in person?
Absolutely. I mean, it's really, the barrier of transportation is huge with our population. And so this is, if they at least have a phone, some people don't even have a phone, but if they have a phone or can get to a phone, we can definitely provide service that way. I mean, it's that connection, right? It's connecting with someone who has had the same experience you've had, and being able to walk with them like, this is how I did it, this is what happened to me, and this is how I can help you. And we can do that over the phone really, really well. So yeah, I see this as opening up some great opportunities for us. We have a training program, and we've been able to switch over to virtual training, and we had, 12 people in a training this week for recovery coach training that may not have, because of childcare or whatever, may not have been able to attend a face-to-face training, where they can definitely attend a virtual training. So we've done some amazing things that we've surprised ourselves that we've been able to adjust so quickly, but it's been really positive.
That's awesome. I think this has been certainly a time of challenge, but it's also been a time of innovation for a lot of people. And I value how quickly our nonprofits have responded to meeting those needs. And then this question, well, actually, I'll take a pause. We did have a question from the audience, and then I want to put Keyshawn on the spot and see if he has any questions. So I don't want to do all the talking. We did have a question from the audience. Will there be a succinct summary of the organizations published by CONO? And I didn't mention this at the beginning, but what we plan to do for all the participants tonight, we're going to do a summary of the topics we talked about, the information with all the organizations that are featured and the services they offer and their website and everything like that. So we'll be sending that to anybody who registered for the webinar tonight. We'll be sending that out tomorrow. So no need to like write things down. We'll send you a summary tomorrow. Keyshawn, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I wanted you to jump in and ask if you had any questions for the panelists.
Yeah, I do have a few questions. The first question I wanted to start with was, I want to know what's y'all's favorite part about doing the work that you do?
Oh, Keyshawn's just stole my question. We didn't like look for, we didn't trade questions at the beginning. Yeah. So sorry, Keyshawn, I interrupted you. Go ahead and ask that again.
What's y'all's favorite work, or what's y'all's favorite part of the work that y'all do?
And we'll go in the same order. Christy, we'll put you up first. Favorite part of your work?
So, I mean, I could say a million things. Number one, I have the most incredible team. We've had to ask all of our volunteers to stand down. So it is literally 5 of us doing the work of 400. And they are the most incredible human beings you could ever hope to meet. I'll tell you that earlier this week, I got an email from a woman who her husband just suffered a protracted illness that culminated in COVID, and he died. And because the community has been so generous with us, she was worried. She's 2 months behind on her rent, and she works hard. But she hasn't been able, she's a gig employee, she's a Lyft driver, and she hasn't been able to grind. And so she's 2 months behind on rent. And what it meant to me, because of the community that stands behind us and because of the team members that get the program out the door, to be able to say, you know what, you've been through enough. I'm not going to shuffle you to another organization. I'm not going to make you come here and fill out paperwork and prove that you have need. We're just going to take care of it. What's your landlord's phone number? That is something that is so amazing about being small and deft and agile. I would say that my favorite part is often working directly with the people as it relates to direct service provision, and particularly emergency service provision. I think I might be the only CEO in town that also does case management. I will tell you that the best part of my job, Keyshawn, is loving the people that nobody else thinks is worth loving. It is the most rewarding thing anyone can do.
That's awesome, Christy. Thanks so much for sharing that.
Can I just say, sorry, I know it's my turn.
No, it's your turn.
Can I just say ditto to, she just said that so eloquently. I don't have the words, like that's what it is.
I know. Yeah, that's how I feel too. Yeah.
No, literally. And I'm like, I gotta keep together. So yeah, I agree with what Christy said in regards to loving people that feel undeserving, or the community or other people think are undeserving. Yeah, it's really cool that I can just talk to people and connect with people that like probably don't think they have a chance anywhere else, and they're just as important as the most rich person in the world in my eyes. So it's really cool and it's very fulfilling. So
awesome. Thanks, Jerry. And Kathy.
Boy, it's amazing because I feel the exact same way, Jerry and Christy. I think it's seeing the light come on, seeing the eyes light up when there's hope. When you offer somebody hope who has been completely devastated and full of shame, full of guilt, because people, who suffer from the disease of addiction often find themselves in horrible places, doing horrible things, and it's not them, and so when we can show them that they can recover and we can see the light come on and offer hope. We, in one of the very first family groups we had, while we were still meeting in person, I had a mom come in, and she sat down and she couldn't even look up. Her head was just hanging and so full of shame. And by the time, the meeting was over, she sat up in her seat and she started talking, and she was, surrounded by people who understood what she was going through. For the first time, she spoke out loud about what was going on in her house and how awful it was and how many years it had affected her and the destruction, of her life. And she was so full of hope. Mm-hmm. And that's my favorite part.
That's awesome. That's so great. All of you, like, I love this. This is like, just warms my heart. It's so great. Keyshawn, we're having just having a few more minutes in our webinar. I wanted to know if you had any other questions. I didn't see any come in from the chat. If people are watching and they have a question for any or all of the panelists, please just write it in the chat or write it in the Q&A, and I'll just read Christy's message. I love the hard work of all my co-panelists. Awesome. And I'm sure they all reaffirm that too. Yeah. And so.
And
Keyshawn,
I did have another question. Yeah, I did have another question. I wanted to know, like, how you all deal with knowing, like, you can't help everyone. Like, do you ever think about, like, all the people that you can't help? And I just know, like, with this work, like, you want to have, like, a huge impact, but you know that you can't help everyone. So how do you deal with knowing that you can't help everyone?
For me, this is a really easy question. I mean, it's painful, right? To get, we have the one thing that we are doing with rent, not with food, but with rent, is we are maintaining our geographic service boundary, and it's heartbreaking to tell someone in 80918 that we're sorry we can't help with rent. It's really hard. But number one, we try to provide warm referrals to actual human beings and not endless call loops. I think, it's Chief Everything Officer. I maintain our info account, and I try to maintain a one business day response time to people who are in crisis, because my commitment is to them. So if I've got 200 emails in my inbox, I am responding to people in need first. Mm-hmm. And I know that for some people we haven't been able to help, they have said, you are the first organization we've heard from. We heard back right away. You don't even know how affirming that is. Like, just that gives people hope. I think that for me, I would rather be able to help 10,000 people really well and give them an experience of being affirmed in their innate dignity, than to be able to help more and have bureaucracies to not be able to say to that woman, just say to that woman, well, our maximum rental assistance amount is $600, and this is, and you have to come in and fill out a bunch of paperwork. I think that the heart of the organization and our ability to be with people right where they are and to adapt to their needs, and to be able to keep our heart and not deviate from our commitment to the human beings at the center of it. I know we can't help everybody, and I know that there are people who are lost, by not living in our service area as it relates to rent and utilities. but we try to do warm handoffs where we can. And we really pride ourselves, and I draw hope and strength from the idea that everyone we can help is really seen and loved and affirmed.
Awesome. Thanks, Christy. Jerry.
Christy is just so phenomenal. I'm like sick of going after her. I don't
I should call on you randomly. I should have like made it like keep it on your toes. You know, I always feel bad because Kathy's like the third last in the rotation. You know.
No, Kathy's great too. Y'all just take my breath away again. I'm like a soft soul. I'm just like, yes to all these words. As Christy mentioned though, it is painful. I'm a person that likes to like do everything and figure everything out, and I'm so solution based, and I'm like, okay, cool, you need this, we're gonna figure it out, even if it comes out of my own pocket, I don't care. I'm just like, let me figure it out. But there are points to where like you literally don't have the resources to do certain things, and I do stay resourceful. I'm so grateful for things like Google, and I don't mind being the liaison for people. I'm not as well versed yet with like knowing what organization may pick up faster than another, etc. But I will sit and call for you or with you or whatever I can personally do, regardless of how much time it takes, because I've been on the other end of that where like you call somewhere and they're like, there's nothing we can do, whatever, bye. And then it's just so heartless and careless. And I'm like, these are people. And especially with like when it comes to food, rent, things are literally having housing is a necessity. Eating is a necessity. Healthcare is a necessity, etc. It's just like super important to me, and I just try my best, even though it really does stink at times that I can't do anything. I do try, and I provide resources similar to, as Christy mentioned, probably not as great, but I'm working on it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jerry. And Kathy, how about you?
Yeah, the need is great. What we do know is there's 23 million Americans in long-term recovery. There's a lot of us. Everybody knows somebody in recovery. And so we're an army of individuals ready to give back. And part of how we stay well is by helping the next person. So what I try to remember is if we can just help one person, when we can help one person, that can change the DNA of that family for 7 generations. And so we really focus on helping that one person that shows up and is ready to do the work, and even if they're not ready, if they're willing to work with a coach, we can help them move along through those stages of change and see their future. We help them see what's possible. And recovery is contagious. So we know it's catching, just like other things, recovery is contagious. So and what we say is we're working on changing the soil in our community. There's a liquor store and a pot shop on every corner, but why can't we have recovery? Why can't we spread recovery like that? Have places, social engagements for people who are trying to stay clean and sober, and so we're trying to spread that message. But yeah, and when we do that, that's how we can help more and more people, is by spreading recovery and giving people the opportunity. People haven't had the opportunity in a really big way to show up to sober events and to have sober areas at concerts and to have sobriety spread. So that's our mission.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kathy. And Keyshawn, thanks for asking that. So that was a great question. Once again, I appreciate all of your time. We're coming to the end of our hour here. I did want to just read one note. I have one final question and one note from the Q&A. I just want to share, one of our participants says, each of you are beautiful spirits. Thank you for your service. And I applaud that too. I agree. Our last question, that I know we're coming to 7 o'clock here, we wanted to just give you the opportunity to let people know how they can contribute to your organizations. As much as you want to elaborate how they could access services if they know somebody in need, and also how people can contribute. Can they donate money? Can they offer to volunteer? Can they donate in-kind donations? What are your organizations needing right now for potential patrons? How do they access services right now during COVID?
So I'll start because this is pretty dry stuff, Jerry. I won't I won't take the words out of your mouth. So let me start with how to get people make a referral to Westside Cares. Our website is in need of a serious overhaul. I obviously don't have the bandwidth to oversee that this year, but go to our website, westsidecares.org. There's a scrolling little thing, and the third story is, and also it's at the top, Westside Cares COVID-19.
Okay.
That provides the most up-to-date information about not only what we are providing, but what we know other community organizations are providing. I update that post about once a week. I update that page about once a week. So anytime we get new information, and it's a great information, you know, if you need food services, you can just sort of see what the portfolio of services are there. So that's a great way to make a referral. The second post on that weird scrolling post thing is our week's most important needs for our pantry. We have, I'm sure Jerry has experienced this too, just weird shortages, like weird national shortages. Like, I think we're finally getting some jelly and jam. So that's coming off our list, but there are in-kind items that you could just throw in your cart anytime you're shopping or even online, and that would be really helpful. That is another way. Westside Cares is proud to be a participating organization in IndieGive. So if you're into those year-end philanthropic incentives, that's indiegive.com/WC. But here's something that everyone can do, because not everyone can go to the store. We're not taking volunteers right now. Not everyone can make a donation that feels good to them at this time. The one thing that you can do is do everything you can to be aware of and to dismantle misconceptions about people experiencing poverty, about people experiencing mental health challenges, about people experiencing substance use disorder. Even if it's something as simple as pulling up to that terrible light and there's somebody with a sign, just making eye contact. You don't have to give them anything. You don't have to engage them in conversation. I usually do. I roll down the window and I say, I got nothing for you, but how's your day? Making eye contact and recognizing that no one is having the best year of their lives, except for maybe the Amazon guy who might be having the best year of his life, but we don't care about him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, the person ahead of you in line at checkout, like, we don't know what people are going through.
Yeah.
So anyone, anywhere can do something to affirm another human being, do it. That's what we need the most. That's what Westside Cares needs the most, and that's what the world needs the most. End rant.
Thanks, Christy. Well said. Well said. It's a simple thing sometimes. Jerry.
So I do want to piggyback off Christy really quick, because one of my mantras, I guess, is we're all one tragedy away from homelessness. Nobody has it all figured out. So being kind to people is like definitely something that's super important that everybody can do. Aside from that, again, we're a pretty new organization, still figuring things out here, or a pretty new pantry, still figuring things out. But for people that are interested in pantry services, emergency food services, volunteering, when we're having events, what we're doing, everything is on solidrockcdc.com. So on the top, it says food pantries, and then it has the information about our food pantry, as well as all the other current programs that Solid Rock is involved in. There's a donate button on there. Everything you need to know is on solidrockcdc.com. I usually post on like my personal Facebook or on the Solid Rock Facebook, just to remind people that like, hey, we're giving out food, y'all, in case you need anything. But the weekly schedules, everything is on the website. Again, solidrockcdc.com, and then you just click on food pantry, or if you're looking for something else or just want to learn more about the organization, literally everything you need to know is on there. So
Awesome. Yeah, and as I mentioned too, for the people watching, we will send out an email to all the participants tomorrow with this information as well. And Kathy, same thing. How can a participant, or how can people access services, and also how can people contribute to your, to your organization that's so crucial in doing your work?
Yeah, you can, the best way is to go to our website, which is srchope.org, or you can call us because we are happily taking phone calls, 719-465-2295. And we as well are part of Indie Gives, so there's also an opportunity to give through there. But, you know, most of all, if you know someone who's suffering with substance use disorder, a family member, anyone, please just have them reach out, because we understand, and you will definitely be handled with love and grace, and be taken to a better place. And that's my hope. And I loved hearing about Jerry's organization. I think that's going to be a new resource for us, because we say we're a resource center for all things recovery. So we right down the street from Westside Cares, and we are just delighted to learn more about other organizations and let you guys know that people don't have to suffer. You know, that there's enough of that. We don't need to do that anymore. You know, let's just show up and let us hold your hand, because we can walk through this together. That's what we do. So.
That's awesome, Kathy. I couldn't think of a better way to, to wrap up this webinar than what you just said. So all of you, thanks to all the panelists, Christy Milligan, Westside Cares, Kathy Plush, Springs Recovery Connection, and Jerry Rose from Solid Rock Community Pantry. Thanks to my co-pilot, Keyshawn Cooks. And thanks to all of the participants tonight. I hope you got some valuable information. I certainly got some inspirational messages in addition to some valuable information. I wish everybody a happy holiday. Once again, if you're interested, we're hosting one more CONO Cares webinar tomorrow night. The theme is going to be Spaces and Places. We're going to have Kids on Bikes, the Chinook Center, and the Nob Hill Urban Arts District. Awesome. Thanks again, everyone, and have a great night.